Piagetian game, right? In this game that he talks about, where it's like, okay, if you have a single interaction with the person, you can completely dominate them. And you win the game. Yay! Except if the person doesn't want to play with you in the future, then you've lost the set of all games with that person. Right? Because there's actually, you're not just playing one game, you're playing a set of games across time. And if you don't play in a way that people want to play with you, with any one particular person, you lose all of the wins that you could get from all of the games that you could play with that person. Right? This is why in creating thriving partnerships, I say that you have to honor your I integrity first and foremost, but you must honor the you integrity next and necessary in order to create an us integrity of agreements that actually serves as a game. You have a relationship, a game, and that game must honor the you and the I, or it's going to disintegrate over time. So it's not enough just to honor yourself. You must honor the other person. You must attempt to understand what they think, feel, and want. And you must attempt to only create rules that are good for them, so that they'll want to keep playing with you over time, and you can maximize the results from that set of games, not just from the game that you're playing right now. Not just what can I get now, but what can I get now in a way that's a win for the other person. It must be win-win in order for thriving, in order to maximize what you get from all the games, right? This is the thriving partnerships perspective. But in the Piagetian recognition, winning this game but losing the whole set of games is a bad move. Similarly, you want to be able to play a game not just with one person, but with multiple people. Right? That if you play a game that you can only play with one person, but you lose all of the other potential games, again, you're losing relative, like you're winning, like you won the first game, you won, great, but you lost all of the possibility. Okay, you won with this person, but you lost all the possibility of all the other people.
It's like a sociopath, right, who plays a game and like a cheater, right, or who breaks rules. He's got to leave.
And this is where it comes in, right?
Yeah.
You've got one person over time, you've got all people over time, and you've got the group of games of all people over time, right? You keep expanding in terms of the number of people that you're including in your game theory and the amount of time you include in your game theory. And then what becomes a good move shifts relative to that context. Right? Again, Rand says knowledge is contextual. So once you think about it from that perspective, you might lose in a particular game because the structures of that game are not perfectly fair. Right? You get into a game and someone has a structural advantage. Right? And so you could say that game is not legitimate. How do you do that? If you go in and say, therefore, the entire structures of the game need to be torn down, now you might have solved the problem for that particular game, of that particular structural inequity, that particular structural advantage. But you've undermined the very context of the games. And it's that context of the games that allows you to play through time across people. And the fundamental game of Western civilization in which we play all of our games is individual rights, equality before the law. Everyone plays by the same rules, right? And we accept that there's a certain amount of inequity. Some people are more attractive than others, and that fundamentally changes the rules of the game for them. Some people are taller than others, and that gives them a particular advantage in certain kinds of contexts. Some people were born with more money. Some people were born with certain kinds of genetic dispositions or temperaments, and those are better suited to different parts of the game, right? And if you want to devalue the game and take apart the structures of the game in order to deal with an inequity, that is the real problem. That's the real problem. Not that a group of people gain power in Italy, right? Not that you get a populist enemy. Not that you get a wild card fake Republican president in Trump who breaks most of the norms of what we've been used to for presidential politics, right? That's a problem because he's undermining the game. He's not the only one undermining the game, of course, right? Like the political polarization is destabilizing the whole game, and as Jordan Peterson would say, that's the problem. The problem is the destabilization of the game. The problem is the people who are trying to take apart the fundamental rules that underlie all the games. And that's what the radical left is doing. It's challenging the underlying logic of all of the Piagetian games. Like, it is the greater threat to the fundamental order. Because if you just keep the rules of the game in place, over time, they will self-correct towards more and more fairness, which is what we see. Like, you could say the United States put in this idea of individual rights. And as that idea, that fundamental idea, got put into the culture, it starts eroding every other distinction, right? Racism, like, in the face of that, became more virulent because now you had to have them not be people. They can't be individuals because that means that we can't have slavery and individual rights. But individual rights was the deeper game. It was the better Piagetian game.